because they're such good travel guides.
Absolutely. You should do a map, because one of the most popular things we sell is a guide to Hillerman country.
Yeah.
You know, the reservation and all. And there's some little company in Colorado that decided they could make a map, and if they did it all right, that people could take Tony's however many books, because he's done for the reservation, again, what you've done in Vermont, and you could travel it.
I would love for someone to do that. I'm overtasked.
I understand
and
that.
That's a perfect case in point of what you were talking about. Great idea.
It is, but that's kind of a long tail thing too, isn't it, in a way? That,
it
now
speaks for itself. I just can't do it.
Sure, no, I understand that, but you've set up this kind of universe, and now it's so real and so multifaceted that someone else could come along and do, a guide to
I would love them.
a guide to Joe
encourage
Gunther's Vermont. You could actually have somebody else do, a cookbook. I mean, there's infinite numbers of things. Is there any other author in Vermont that's doing for Vermont what you are?
No. It's small enough a state that while Vermont is filled with authors, because it's very sort of conducive and
it's kind of like Santa Fe in New England.
Yes, exactly right.
In lots of ways, it's like
lots
Santa
of ways,
Fe
in lots
in
of
New
ways,
England.
exactly right. That's quite true. So it's very seductive and inviting and all the rest of that. And it's also, I find, a very pleasant place to live if you are a creative type. However, while people are writing in Vermont, and a few of them write of Vermont, I'm the only guy who's really sort of turned it into a full-fledged franchise. I mean, 19 books. I have to have broken almost all records with that, I would assume, especially every year, just cranking them out.
Well, you have been. Interestingly enough, this is Michael Connelly's 19th book, too. In October. Well, we're in October. We just started October.
Yeah.
And I love that two of my favorite writers have turned 19 along with me. But Michael has not, almost everything has been Los Angeles. He does have one that's primarily Las Vegas, the one with Cassie, the woman.
Okay.
So in a way, he is done for Los Angeles. I mean, people think of him as the modern Chandler in part because it is the update on Chandler's vision of Los Angeles. And in fact, there are sections of Michael's books that, he has said that Chandler would be perfectly comfortable reading and would feel totally at home with.
Yeah.
But that's a much smaller, that's sort of a city. Ed McBain made up the city for the 87th precinct. I mean, it's
which was
Isola, wasn't he called it?
It
was obviously not.
Iola?
No, I think it's Isola, which I believe is Isola.
Which was New York.
He's an Italian guy, and of course his breakthrough book was The Blackboard Jungle, which he published under his own name. Again, what is his own name?
Evan Hunter.
Thank you. Evan Hunter. I'm having another senior moment. It's really bad for an interviewer to have senior moments like this. But I mean, we were actually great email correspondents. In the last years of his life, he died of throat cancer when he couldn't really speak. He was an avid emailer because he could talk to me that way, and he'd done a couple of events with us, and we chit-chatted a lot. And he wrote a lot of things, but he did keep coming back. Amazingly enough, as he was dying, and I think I'm trying to remember if he was in his 80s, he got better. He was actually turning out better books. They're all good. I don't mean that.
Maybe the pressure was off.
I don't know, but it was just like, he just kept upping himself. And he rolled along and he was doing various things, but it was just astonishing how creative. I mean, sure, he died. What is the, don't go gently into that good night? I'm sure that was it. I'm absolutely sure.
That's neat.
He raged against the dying of the light, is what I was thinking of. I'm sure he did, except in his case, he raged against silencing his voice.
Sure. I can empathize with that. I look at all these books in a constructive, creative way as miniature failures. In other words, if someone were to ask to me, what's your favorite book? I always answer the same way. That one, because I haven't screwed it up yet by writing it.
That's right. His name was Sal something. His real name Seriously, it wasn't Evan
It wasn't
Hunter, and it
Evan
wasn't
Hunter.
Ed
It was-
McBain.
oh
It
my
was
goodness.
Salvatore something.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're one up on me there.
I'll
As
get-
well you should be.
Well, we'll get back to it. Now, I think you have a very good point, that the book in the author's head is not
Oh, it's
It's not
perfect.
often the book that
Yeah.
actually
Oh,
emerges.
Very, very rarely.
But even more than that, the book the reader reads is neither of those, because the reader brings himself
Oh,
or
sure.
herself.
Oh, sure.
Which you can't possibly anticipate.
No, but you can make room for it.
Yep.
When I read a book by an author who supplies me almost as much detail as does a movie, I'm not going to be a really happy reader. Because one of the primary differences between attending a movie and reading a book is that when you do the latter, you can bring forth your imagination, you can be stimulated by the voids left by the author so that you can fill in the sounds and the smells and the accents and the appearances. I don't describe Joe Gunther in great detail, but you have an image of Joe Gunther in great detail. If you went to the movies, you don't really need to bring your imagination. You can, but you can also leave it at home if you're having a bad day. And even the violin section will tell you when to cry. So I've always honored that contract with the reader. The reader has this great creative instinct. They just don't happen to write books. So you help them out.
How about audiobooks? I have always shied away from hearing somebody become the voice that I hear in my head. I don't want that.
Well, I have an audiobook out now. Well, actually, I published the audiobook for Open Season.
I saw your website, which is, by
Yes.
the way, archermayor.com, M-A-Y-O-R, for anybody who would like to go there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And you can get all the early books and that book on tape from there. But the question became, would I read that book? And I think I don't have a trained voice, but I could probably be engineered that my voice would be okay on tape. I didn't want to do it because of that exact factor. I didn't want to superimpose myself onto that, regardless of how good or poor my voice might be. The other thing is, of course, the time thing that you were talking about
Sure.
earlier. You can only do so much given the 24-hour day. And I was happier to hire an actor who did a perfectly nice job. It's not the high-end guy who gets paid $20,000 a minute, but it's no schlep either who can barely act his way out of a bag. So I'm pretty happy, given the sized publisher that I am, to have got the product that I got. I'm not really crazy about books on tape. But I'll tell you what I am playing with. Actually, it's funny you should open this door, because we were talking about the long tail and about marketing and about various visions of a product, if you will, which at the purely sort of workman-like level is what we're discussing here. To heck with art. What was it Andy Warhol said? Art short for Arthur, isn't it? So what we've got is a cast of characters, which you've touched on, a long series of books, a sense of three-dimensionality with Joe and his world and his people and the lives that they refer to. And so I'm sitting there scratching my head, and I also visualize, as do we all, people walking around our society with earbuds attached to iPods. Everybody's got them. I've got one in my pocket right now, because if I'm exercising or if I'm driving and I can't get good radio reception, I have programs that I've downloaded, and I'll listen to those. Fresh air programs. Wait, don't tell me. Depends on what I want to think or what I want to laugh. And I'll listen to those in half-hour increments or thereabouts. All right, so we have this technology that everybody has. And a good many of these people download off the internet. Thought one. Thought two is I have this body of work. Thought three, hold up 3 fingers there, is that I am of a certain age. And I was brought up with radio drama. The Shadow, Gunsmoke, things that were great favorites of mine. On a Friday night, we would sit on the edge of our chairs and we would listen literally to people using coconut shells to imitate horse hooves.